This is the Conscious Radio Network.
All righty then. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome. Wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's live weekly podcast series, The Weekly Séance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time watching, please subscribe, like, share, and comment. You can also listen to us on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and soon Apple Podcast. So tonight we have Nikki Maly as a holistic expert and founder of the Intuitive Illumination. She specializes in hypnotherapy, theta healing, biomagnetism, and more to empower clients through mind, body, and soul, utilizing modern alternative methods. Or has it something rediscovered? Ancient techniques? Don't know. But tonight we will find out. Let's welcome Nikki Maly to the show. Welcome, Nikki.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's been a while since we saw each other at the last expo and stuff, and want to do some catching up to see how the Illumination program is going. How's that been?
Things are going great. So I'm not sure where we left off, but I know that for a while we had been going around the state of Florida Fest, and kind of just advertising ourselves there. I have since then opened an office in Winter Park. I've been working out of my home off and on for quite a while, but decided to expand and open an office again in Winter Park. So it's actually right behind, kind of like where the Winter Park Plaza on the other side, behind all the shopping. So it's conveniently located for those who are familiar with the Winter Park area.
Yeah. Now I wanted, how did this all start for you? Getting into these modalities, was this something that came as you were a child? Any gifts that you can remember starting way back then?
Yeah, I know it's always hard to pinpoint. Like, okay, what is the
right.
point? Like, what do we qualify as? Point. I've always been intuitive. Like most people, it's that that knowing without knowing why, or having that gut feeling. And I started to really understand it or hear it more as a teenager, and knew then I could listen to it, but I wasn't sure like how I could trust it or when to call on it when I needed to. Really how to build that relationship. It was just kind of spotty in there. Like sometimes it would say, "Hey, mayday, mayday, this isn't a good situation," or "Hey, this is something we can do." So from being an adolescent and then late 20s, I actually ended up being recommended. She was like a life coach and a psychic by a coworker. So I had just started with this big company and making new friends. A coworker had recommended, was talking about this psychic that he was going to, and reasons, something that he had said was kind of like an earworm. So kind of just took a hold of my attention. And I later came back and asked him, I'm like, okay, so this life coach lady, let me know more. And from there, I would say my personal journey really took a hold. So previous to that, my grandfather had a deck of cards to encourage me, and that was the first time that I actually had like familial support within, because as far as like my mother and nuclear family is concerned, that was just not the thing to do, right? So I ended up booking a session with this woman, and long story short, I ended up taking Reiki classes with her. So started there, which then kind of like flowed into the modality called Theta healing, which I have the most training in that over all of everything that I've done. I've taken double-digit classes, like workshops and teacher trainings, because I love the modality so much. It helped change my life, and I help others by changing their life by using the modality and then teaching the techniques that I do. And then from there, it's really just kind of what the universe or creator has brought into my awareness. So, or what's next, what to learn. That's where hypnotherapy came in. So when the pandemic hit, it actually shifted things for me, and I ended up moving into hypnotherapy, which was very similar to theta healing. So in many ways, it was very familiar and felt super just easy and effortless and natural. But it was better well known in, you know, just the general public. So it was easier to advertise myself. Then I kind of went from there into the biomagnetism pair therapy. Big name, but it does a lot of cool things. So just a really quick snippet, and then, you know, we can get into further details of anything you're curious about. But with the biomagnetism pair therapy, it's using magnets in pairs. And what the magnets do, because the magnets don't actually heal themselves, but they do create the for healing to happen. So it balances the pH, so it's not acidic and it's not really alkaline. So no pathogens are able to sustain in there. So you cannot have viruses or bacteria and fungus. It brings it back into balance. Yeah. And then you're going to pass that out. It also depolarizes within the body, and it heals on the quantum level. So
that's the biomagnetism.
Biomagnetism pair therapy. That is probably my newest trick in the bag. I've been practicing that since November of last year.
Yeah.
I did 3 months of training. I worked on people. It's actually a service that I still do not charge for. It's the only service that I do donation based. Yeah. Because people, I want them to just kind of get a feel for themselves, like towing into the things, if you will. So it's encouraging. It's an icebreaker. It's a way for people to get to meet me, get to know me a little bit better, and how I operate when I'm doing sessions and servicing clients. So it's just kind of like in between.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of biomagnetism, but I'm not sure if I've heard it in that sort of context. You know, you got the bioelectric. Now everybody knows, okay, you got the human body, and we are electric. There is magnetism everywhere. But without having to get too much into detail, you said this actually helps change the pH within the body to get it to a neutral state, more like basically a base state.
Yep. So it's not too alkaline, it's not too acidic. So that, let's say if you have most of us don't know that we have parasites and things within our system that really aren't supposed to be there. And what I have experienced throughout this process is there's like a buildup of these pathogens, which then sometimes people are labeling to be, you know, the C word. I don't know if I say that or not.
Yeah.
And what's happening is by using the magnets, you're able to rid the body of these pathogens. So whether it's a bacteria, a virus, and a lot of times they will work together to help each other in that environment so they can sustain. So, you know, you're on Earth and the goal is to thrive, whether you're bacteria or a human, right? Yeah. So that's, you know, life wants to persist. So we probably don't notice it because it may just be like a subtle irritation. But once that's removed, you actually do notice it, because it's kind of like that ringing. Like, let's say I was at Costco the other day and I was waiting in line at customer service, and one of the batteries that must have been returned had this annoying ringing sound, and it's driving everybody bananas. And by the time I got to the front of the counter, I told the guy, I'm like, I am so sorry, that you're probably deaf to that by now, but it's probably driven you nuts. And he agreed with me on both counts. But to a point, it's like, you know, yeah, you have to block it out to keep your sanity. But then when that sound is gone, you feel that relief on your ears, right? Of not having sound anymore. It's very, very similar with the magnets. So maybe, you know, it's not going to be as blaring as an alarm in your ear, but it is going to be some sort of annoyance, and you will notice a difference. Everybody that I've worked on, because I love to hear everyone's feedback, and no matter what I'm doing, and as we go along, I will ask, you know, certain questions if I feel that a client isn't where they need to be. But I do love to ask questions with the magnets, like, oh, just let me know if there's any sensations, or if anything, you know, if there's anything that you notice that you want to talk about, feel free to bring it up. And a lot of times there are sensations. It's just, it's the best way I can describe it, because I've had like at least 24 treatments myself. It's helped with my digestion. It's helped with different things. I've actually helped heal my body from sinus infections and ear infections recently with strictly just the magnets.
Wow.
So, and I've helped others with their sinuses. I've helped, and it's amazing, because people, you know, we go in very cautiously when we've never heard of something, or someone's like, hey, let me on you, like, okay, sure. If you're optimistic. But, and I had one client, because she was a recurring client that she was coming back from the magnets. And after I had worked on her sinuses, that was an added thing that we were working on. We had some other things we were working on. That day she had come in, and I think it was her allergies, or that she was getting a sinus infection. So I put the magnets on her for that. And she came back a week or two later, and she was like, oh, let's do the sinuses again. And she's like, I didn't notice exactly when, you know, when we were in session. She said, but as time progressed, it got better. And she noticed it then over the next few days that it lasted. So it's really amazing. It's so fascinating. But think about it. If you have a sinus infection, that's a bacteria. We are taking the environment bacteria is growing in, and we're now making it no longer hospitable for it. So you can now flush it out. So,
yeah. And you started, this is a modality you started November of last year, right?
My newest thing, because I am the eternal student, and I'm always looking and learning and reading, and there are modalities where I'm not really called to it, and this actually took a little bit of time. I had a friend who had already taken it, and she kept telling me about it, and it took her about it, telling me about it, to finally encourage me enough to say, maybe I want to look at it. And then once I did, I was glad that I did. And I'm like, oh, I wish I was so stubborn and waited so long, but it's been a really fun journey.
Wow. Yeah, that is cool. And that, you don't hear much about that. I mean, I haven't. I mean, with all the expos that I go to and stuff like that, you don't hear. I mean, you hear about the, you know, the sound therapy and just all the other modalities. There's so many of them out there.
It works in a similar way as sound because of the frequency, if you think about the frequency part of it. But to your point, this is something that is not well known of English speakers mostly. So when I learned of this, my teacher was a native Spanish speaker. The founder, Dr. Goyes, he is from Mexico. And he ended up, he has an amazing story. I won't share that with you here, but if this intrigues you, then you'll be in for a treat. Story about how it ended up coming in. He actually almost got thrown out of Mexico because of his findings, and he reported it to the government and all this great stuff. And he ended up traveling around and sharing it with South America. So a lot of native Spanish speakers may know or have heard of it. It's just not something that's gotten to us just yet. So hopefully we get more well known.
Now, do you feel that this is a version of an ancient technology of healing, something that might go back thousands of years, ancient Egypt, ancient Middle East, ancient?
Absolutely. There's nothing like the sun.
Yeah.
It's more of a matter of rediscovering. So With Theta healing, it's working with the Theta brainwave. And when I came into hypnotherapy, I'd already loved reading like Brian Weiss's books and hypnotherapy. And I'm like, the signs were there the whole time. Like hypnotherapy was always my next step. You know, it was just kind of crazy. And then with the biomagnetism pair therapy, there is, and I'm so bad with names, and I'm probably going to butcher it, so I'll just, you know, let it go right now. I know facts, I cannot regurgitate them.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
know like Francis Mortimer, Mesmer, known as Mesmer, therapist, but he also talks about like animal magnetism. And as I started to do more research into hypnotherapy, he was actually doing healings with magnets too. I haven't had a chance yet to go and look more into that and see exactly more about his story. That intrigues me. Wait a minute, I do hypnotherapy, and then I got into to me, like, how do they connect? But then as I started to read, I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense. So that's something that I'm looking to finding more about how that tied into his life, and maybe to see where that goes for me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed too through the years, and it's just many years, probably 20 some plus years ago. Through those years, I've seen different markets of items that you could buy with magnetic. I forget the name of the company. It's from Japan. I think it's like Nikken or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably still do that. The soles, the insoles for your feet, you know, that are a magnetic thing, and then things you can use all over. I mean, just like
for our body, and about it, like the earth has a magnetic charge, and that's why it's really good for us to do grounding when we are barefoot on the ground and kind of absorbing. So yeah, it's really cool. And I do use it because so typically, like with a session, I'll go through and I'll scan somebody, and it takes me roughly, depending on the person, like 2 to 3 sessions to get through all the points and scanning them to make sure that we clear the pathogens. After that, we clear what's called the reservoirs. And so the example I always use with this is like with cold sores, because most people understand that, right? So cold sores is a virus that, you know, you don't have a cold sore, it's laying dormant within your body, right? Well, we kind of know where. So that's what we're calling the reservoir. So when we have pathogens that are laying dormant in the body, they're going to these reservoirs. And then, so what we're doing is we're clearing out anything that's active. And then we go and then we clear the reservoirs out to completely clear your system out completely. So now I have personally had really interesting healings happen. I have worked on other people who have had very interesting things, you know, for them as results, whether it's been alleviating pain or discomfort, like I said, with the sinuses, physical pain, different things. My friend who has been practicing this longer than I have has so many stories of how people walk in one way and come out of her office a whole new person. So it's encouraging, and I encourage everybody to look into it. Give me a call, book a session. First session is free. The rest are by donation, but it is encouraged just to give it a try and see, you know, what it could do for you.
Yeah.
There's also emotional things you can help with. So fear, depression, anxiety,
PTSD.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like the trauma with that. You know, I've helped a lot of people who have been getting sick with the pathogens that have been going around the past couple of years. So, you know, there are points for that. So I have yet, anytime I come in contact with anybody who has COVID, I put the magnets on and fine. So it's been really cool.
Wow. Wow. Now, the hypnotherapy.
Yes.
How long have you been doing that?
For a few years. So not too long, 2 years before the magnets. 2021. And that was the coolest thing I've done in a long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, kind of, I'm trying to remember Brian Weiss's books. There's a few of them that I read. One of them I read in a day because it was like water. I was like a dry sponge and it was water. So I just like
Wow.
sucked it up, absorbed every word in the book. I was completely entranced, fascinated. I be inspiring as far as like looking at the bigger picture of life. Like there is more going on in this universe than this life that we're having.
Yeah.
Life. That there is an even bigger picture. So I would read his books, and I was wondering, like, how does somebody get into that kind of a career? Like, how do you say, oh, I'm going to go into hypnotherapy? Here I am. So it's really interesting in that manner. But like I had previously mentioned, that during the pandemic is what brought the opportunity up for me. So I had a full-time job at a small engineering firm, and they let me go because of the pandemic. They were trying to do what they could to keep their family business. Completely understood. I just looked at it as, okay, this is giving me opportunities that I can't see yet. It's a little scary, but I'm going to have to trust it. And I want to say just a couple months later, I was getting ready to go visit some family because I'd been sick of seeing the inside of my house after a couple of months of not leaving. Went on like a little road trip and took my Kindle. Now, my grandfather and I have a close relationship. Like I said before, he had given me a deck of cards. So we actually share a Kindle account because we like the same things in that manner, the same books. So I went in there and I'm like, okay, you know, he's always getting new books. Like this man's library is, but I'm so glad to be able to share. So I went in there, like, it was really interesting. I just wanted to read something about past lives, something similar to Brian Weiss. At that time, I felt like I kind of needed that, like, to reignite that spark in the hope for humanity and seeing that much bigger picture, right? Bigger than just my world, bigger than just the world that we see broadcast, but even bigger. And I saw this book on there by an author that I was not familiar with, and her name was Bryn. And at that time, I didn't know, is this a boy? Is this a girl? I don't know. Not that it mattered, but it does later in the story. So, all right, download the book. Visiting with family, and I had time to where I had time. So I'm like, okay, let's grab my book. So I get my Kindle and I open up I get in there and I start reading that Bryn has a school for doing hypnotherapy. And I was like, put down my Kindle, go over to my laptop, and I type it in and I pull up her website and there's a phone. Like, okay, call. So I called and herself picked up. So she's ready. I really wasn't expecting that. I thought that I would get admin of some sort. So it kind of threw me off. So she said hello. I was like, lost my voice. I was like, ah. But we had a lovely conversation. I didn't know at the time that she was actually screening me for her class because I was calling her, having questions about it, not sure if this is something for me. She was explaining that they had just got done doing a pilot that they were actually going to be teaching. This was going to be the first class that they would be teaching over Zoom. So that would be I've had a class over Zoom before, but it was a different experience even from that. Mm. So I don't know. I really wanted to do it. Not sure if it was a smart financial decision at the time, because I see, just kind of like a car in the dark. I can't see what's past the headlights. Yeah. And it wasn't a small chunk of money. So, but I'm so happy I did. I've really grown more into myself as a healer with helping others by gaining this skill set. I have helps people with it, that gives me so much joy. That's really what fuels my fire. So I've helped people overcome this. One client had an issue with sleep for over 20 years. Over
Wow.
20 years, they had an issue with sleep. We had one session and reported back that have been sleeping. So it was an unexpected surprise, but that was, obviously welcomed. Another client has had fears with rides. So I don't know where everybody else is located, but I'm here in Orlando, Florida. Most people know that as like the Disney capital. And this person had fear of going on those rides. So they came in, let me know that this is what they wanted to work on. And oh, by the way, they were going to Disney that night. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, pressure, right? Yeah, what that's gonna take. But once again, they did fantastic, and they reported back that it was the first time they were able to actually enjoy the ride, to actually like in the line, because the line gave them anxiety, and sometimes when they got to that point of no return, they would go away and turn down the ride. So that's huge. I mean, just those are just a couple of stories. I could go on all night, really.
Yeah.
Just happy to help.
Yeah, it's amazing how how that can, you just relieve, it unlocks, it kind of just, it lets the steam out. I kind of always seen hypnotherapy as you look at a steamed potato,
Uh-huh.
and it's swollen because of all the steam that's trapped inside, and you just stick it with a fork and it just lets all the steam out.
Yeah.
It lets those trapped things that do not offer us anything anymore. Well, most of them never did.
Right.
But the things that don't serve any purpose for us, just let it go. So
yeah, and even for clients that come in just for that peace of mind, like you're talking about, that is one of the biggest things that they can say unexpected benefits. So it's not only just obtaining the goal that we're after, but getting that, having that peace of mind and mental peace, right?
Yeah, yeah. Even the dog agrees.
I know, right?
Yeah.
No coincidence.
Exactly. There's no coincidence. So you formed Intuitive Illumination during the COVID lockdown?
No.
Or was that before?
Illumination started in 2014.
Oh, okay.
Is when I became a certified Theta healing instructor and Reiki master.
Oh,
so at that point, I had decided to take the road, right? So I had just been enjoying the classes for myself and really for self-development, and took the leap and decided to teach.
Nice. Yeah, it's these I've noticed through the years that there has been a growing society of light workers with all different types of modalities. And we notice it when we go to these expos and stuff like that. You always meet new vendors and new practitioners. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
man,
and that's one of the reasons. Right? Yeah, and sometimes it's new modalities I've never heard of. That's one of the reasons I do miss going. I do miss being a part of the group, of seeing everybody, the excitement, and I'll probably go to the one in Orlando, but as a patron.
Yeah. Well, every now and then I gotta clear my throat and just But so is there anything new that's happening in your work, or is there like any projects, books, new workshops, anything specific that's happening that you want the world to know?
Right. This is kind of a slow time for me, believe it or not. Summer's
Yeah.
kind of slow, especially right now. You know, school's out, so that does affect my activity level.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we have a kid in school, so they're in school, I can work. I'm trying to think. So no, because I just a few months back I had done another podcast series. Um, so just kind of like regrouping at the moment. I should
Yeah.
be having some workshops posting soon. I did have like a hypnotherapy group offering. I may do that again in another month or two, just for people who have never tried hypnotherapy to get just kind of like a general. It is that clearing out of the mind, the negative self-talk, clearing out the mental chatter.
Yeah.
Generalized group sessions, because you can't really. It's harder to go in and do deep therapy on a group. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's more individualized. But I would say, you know, just keep looking at Facebook and the website. I keep those up to date with any new offerings that I might have. Um, but other than that, I would, if you're interested in trying the biomagnetism pair therapy, again, that is by donation. I do offer the hypnotherapy and past life regression, which is a lot of fun. So
There
if you're
you go.
curious about that, a hypnotherapy session is weird, but that's so that we can build rapport together, so that you are comfortable in the process, that you know and understand what the process looks like, it feels like, and that you're, you know, that you can comfortably get into trance. And it is
Yeah.
more effective. The feedback that I've heard from my clients, it is far more effective the second time around, just because they do know what to expect. So, but yeah, past life regression is a lot of fun. That has been a lot of fun. I mean,
Wow.
all of it, joy. You just I never know what to expect within a day, what's going to happen for my clients, and how things are going to come out for them, other than we do get to the goal, but the stuff that happens in between, there's no telling what could happen.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Let me put up let's see. I got my other phone number on there. I don't want that. The other phone numbers for people who have questions. And there. Cool. All right. I think that's right. I was like, that's the wrong number. No. It's already my regular phone's already blowing up. I get spam about 1,500 times a day, and it's like, no, I can't add to that. But so if anybody has any questions for Nikki Maly, you can call in 407-636-1157. If you have any questions on want to ask her if a particular situation, if the biomagnetism what is it?
Biomagnetism pair therapy.
There you go. It's close. I was just one word off. The biomagnetism paratherapy. If you have any questions about that, it is intriguing. I may have to try that. Because I have allergies. I've got a lot of friends that have allergies. A lot of people that have allergies out there. So it might be something. Just try it.
Absolutely. What are you waiting for?
Exactly. Try it. You'll like it. And past life regression or yeah. But through the past life hypnotherapy that you do, is it it's a past life regression, correct?
So those are two different things. Hypnotherapy is how we can overcome like any habit breaking, adapting to new situations, reaching goals, things of that nature. Past life regression is specific. It's going to be similar set of tools, but it's specific to going past this life, or beyond this life, I should say, and exploring from there. General hypnotherapy sessions are going to deal with any ailments or issues that you're working to resolve within this life.
Connect on your end. It might be. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I keep getting a flag on the side of my platform that says disconnect, disconnect. So I don't know if it's my internet or your internet or everybody's internet. So hopefully it stays
You've been cut
stable.
down a little bit, but
Yeah. Every now and then too, it's you'll freeze, but your voice is still there, and yeah. But yeah. The stuff we depend on.
right. Technology works.
Yeah. And I think the first time that we met was in I think it was the Sarasota show. And you had your booth set up and you were doing it was an oracle reading, correct?
Yep. So I do tarot readings. Typically, it's I don't typically offer tarot readings anymore, though that's really just for shows.
Yeah, yeah. As far as like mediumship, you have a mediumistic abilities as far as just doing readings?
Oh, yeah. So, well, I don't claim to be a medium. I definitely have a lot of people who have crossed over that like to communicate.
Yeah.
Somebody in my seat. So, while it's not always intentional, through sometimes. I mean, not doing a reading. There was a time where I was like trying to, check into my hotel room, and a person's grandmother pops up, and I was like, really, right now? Yeah. So definitely can do all the things. It's just, again, not something that I advertise. It's something that I allow to just kind of come in when it does. And usually it's with a purpose. It's typically grandmothers. So
yeah. Oh, my great grandmother comes in all the time. Shoot.
Yeah. I did have somebody's great grandmother come in, grandmother, great grandmother, but yeah, it's and it's interesting because there have been plenty of times where I won't know the person because either they're sitting down for a reading or I'm just going throughout my daily normal life and it's just an interesting encounter. But I will ask questions like for the man. I was checking into my hotel room. I was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "How am I going to work this in a conversation?"
Yeah.
So you were close to your right? And like that first question is always just kind of a little bit of a leap. I try to keep the conversation lighthearted, and then deliver the message. So I think in that case, she was just wanting her grandson to pay more attention to his passion, and I think it was something in music. And I don't remember what it was because it was something I had never heard before. I'm like, "You do something in music," and he was like, "Yeah, blah blah blah," and that's all I remember because it was very unique. But just let him know that his grandmother was watching over him and that she wanted him to keep doing that, to explore it, and just give it time and attention. And he was happy with that message and said thank you and went on his way. Another time I had somebody whose grandmother came in and she was more focused on his grandchildren, just letting him know that she was there watching. And this is when I was in an office setting. So it was really uncomfortable for me because these people didn't know me in that light at all. So, the message, he then asked me, he's like, "Well, how do you get that on my resume?" I was like, "What? Like, how'd that be on your resume?" I'm like, "Oh no." And that's how I skirted around it. But it's interesting because when those times have happened, I've had the fear of, okay, are they going to accept what I have to say? Like, so I've always gone in very gently. And thankfully it's always received really well. And it's usually, uplifted those who've gotten the message. So that's helped with me and my fear and saying, okay, I can let that go.
Yeah.
So I'm very intuitive in how I operate, even in sessions. While, you know, there are basic steps that I'm going to go through for like hypnotherapy or theta healing, I will always follow my intuition. So
Yeah.
sometimes my clients may not understand that if they're in denial. That's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got to show you something. Are you willing to see it? Those times when they're not, up like a buffet. So here it is, take it or leave it. And then I just kind of meet where they're at and we go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. When it comes to spirit coming in to give a message to someone in the living, I have noticed that it's usually always a grandparent.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. It is strange. If the parents haven't passed away. And if one of the parents have passed away, then yeah, one of them will come in. But most of the time it is a grandparent.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmother or either great or great. Wait, yeah. Grandmother or great grandmother or father or whatnot. But it's mainly always the female that comes forth first.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
That's not, you know, because I have had, was it a grandfather and a sister come through once? But it was like so interesting how that came through.
Yeah.
I had one great grandmother that she never got to meet, you know, her living relative that I was communicating with.
Yeah.
And her and I had this conversation, well, just one night in my house. Like she showed up, and the next time I saw this person, I let them know. I was like, hey, so your great grandmother on your mom's side, she's passed away, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, and you never met her, did you? He was like, no, I know, because she told me. So,
Yeah.
And then we continued on with the conversation. Luckily, this person had been getting messages like this for me for about the past 6 months. So they were kind of used to it. They would just come into my presence, and I'm like, you know, boom, I have a message for you. Just single time. So it was always very interesting. So when his great grandmother came through, I wasn't too surprised, but I was like, hi, Granny. Okay, but you can't stay here. Like, thanks for stopping by, but
yeah. Yeah, if you do, you're gonna have to pay rent. I don't know how that's gonna work.
You're gonna have to get these bills. So in all aspects, it's just been a lot of fun, and through the years and through my and meeting new people and doing different training, my skills have just changed in such a great way. Like, I happy to be where I am in my skill set. You know, a few years ago, I thought I was good. I'm like, oh yeah. And now I look back and I'm like, whew, well, I'm glad I'm still improving. So I hope that in years to come, I can continue to say that, which I don't see why not, because I'm always learning something new, but it is a lot of fun. Sometimes it's hard to find people to play with, like, you know, friends that have really cool skills, because not everybody has the same skill set, even though like we do, but we don't. Like, that's another thing when I'm teaching. I've noticed, that's one of the things I noticed very quickly when I was teaching is, yeah, we can all be clairsentient or clairaudient or clairvoyant, but there's a unique combination of those things for each of us. And then it's like we get unique skill sets within that. So when I am teaching people, it's so enriching to watch them actually blossom and grow. But it's also very interesting to see what kind of skills that they have and what are their special abilities.
Have you had any clients that when they first come work with you, that they walk away and later, you see them a couple months later or maybe a year later, and they're like, because of the work that you did with me, I've somehow found this new gift.
Not usually about gifts, but general just
Or ability.
life growth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of the stories are almost like unbelievable. And I don't like in some of the testimonials I've not even put up. I won't even put up my. They just. I just don't.
Yeah.
It's just like you have to be. Sometimes like you really have to see it to believe it. I cannot tell you how many times that's happened to me. Like, had I not seen there, been there, done that, I would not know what I know, or it would be hard to believe. But it's so different. So I had a client who came to me, and they were very, very troubled. Many different things. And this person, after several sessions, and this has been over the course of a couple years, they were deciding to take, the Theta healing class, the first one. And they made it the first day. They came back. It's a 3-day class. They came back the second day, and it wasn't even an hour into that second day, and they had to leave. He was like having kind of like his own little attack, or going on, and it took him a couple of months before he could actually come back and finish the class, but he did. And I cannot emphasize just the amount of growth. This is a person who went from having almost like he was being tormented by entities, if you will. This is how he came to me. He was actually referred by somebody else that was just felt that they had reached the end of their rope of being able to help him. So when he was not able to defend himself, if you will, on the psychic level, he was not able to defend himself. So that was really what prompted him into taking the class. It took a lot of, just encouraging him and just letting him make that own decision on it, like make that decision in his own time. But when he did, he's a completely changed person. I mean, even those who saw him before don't recognize him now. I've had people where maybe they don't recognize the change in them, but let's say, because I have a lot of referrals, there's like people who just like refer everybody they can get their hands on to me. In one of those situations, the person that referred my client, I've actually had this happen a couple times where the person that refers the client comes and says, I don't know if they said it to you, but there's a huge improvement in them. Maybe they can't see it, but I see it within them. Or I've had people who say, I saw a huge change in so-and-so, and I asked them what they did. They've been seeing you. So then they end up in my chair.
Huh. Wow.
Which that to me is like the best advertisement. Like you saw that big, a significant change in someone to where you wanted to seek that out for yourself.
Yeah. Now you said you have a bricks and mortar shop in Winter Park, right?
I have an office in Winter Park.
Okay.
That's where I do my sessions. I hate to do this. I look like I don't want my laptop to die. Let me grab my.
Oh, you gotta plug it in.
Let me grab my cord real quick.
Plug it in. While she is away grabbing her cord, let me put up the number again. So if we got about 10 minutes left of the show, so if anybody has any questions for Nikki Maly on the biomagnetism paratherapy, I got it. Biomagnetism paratherapy. There you go. Give us a call, 407-636-1157. We got about 10 minutes left, so we'll maybe cover maybe one more topic really quick or take questions. Let's see, what do we got here? Ran out of modalities. So let's see. I ran out of stuff. Holistic. So the holistic aspect. A lot of people get confused of holistics. Like when I first heard about it many years ago, and that was probably when it started getting popular. The word holistic, people like listen to it and they're like, holistic, what is that? And the first thing that comes to mind, oh, it's natural. Well, holistic is a little bit more than natural, I think, or at least I feel. What is your definition of the holistic aspect of what you do that you want people to know about?
I think the first impression people may get is holistic is being natural. For me, the way that I like to view it as holistic is mind, body, and spirit, the whole of us, right? So it's not isolating one organ or one situation or one feeling. It's looking at it as a whole and saying, how do we treat the whole instead of dissecting the parts, right?
Yeah.
So we work and use that synergistically, working together, as opposed to just trying to have a quick fix. Yeah. So what I'm noticing with like my clients when we work on, we one thing, but as an practitioner knows how you do one thing is how you do everything. At least that's what I hear in my yoga classes all the time when I'm practicing.
Yeah.
But I always feel a little corny when I'm saying it, but it really, like, I had to think about it. I'm like, is that true? Like, okay, how I do one thing. Like, all right, well, let's take this yoga. How am I doing this? I'm like, okay, I'm rushing and ready for the next pose. Yeah, that's how I do everything. I'm always like just a step ahead. I'm ready to, be on to the next thing. In some ways that is great for me because then I'm prepared. But then other ways, not always fun. But so looking at it holistically, understanding that the more that we can actually understand our mind to control our mind, the more that we're actually in control instead of letting our emotions and feelings take over and kind of drive the car, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also identifying when we do have those emotions and feelings, what are they telling us? Because so many times we're taught okay, jealousy, the shadow emotions like jealousy, anger, sadness, that those are bad, but they're not. That's a part of us, and they're there for a reason, and it's meant to show us something. And if we can just change our perspective from being bad to saying, okay, this is something for us to understand how to fix. Like when we get angry, okay, this is not everybody's definition, but a lot of times when anger pops up, I've noticed that for people, it's a failure to I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why. And I don't understand fill in the blank. And it causes that anger. So using the emotions to help unpack and try to get really to the root of the problem. Because a lot of times what I will say is someone thinks they know where the root to their issue is, and it's always somewhere else. It's always in an unexpected place.
Yeah.
That's where the sessions, whether I'm doing theta healing or hypnotherapy, are always pleasantly surprising, because the client will come out of, especially with hypnotherapy, they come out of trance and wow, I would have never guessed the root of my sleeping issue was, back in college, I fell asleep and I missed an exam, something like that. It's never really where you think it is, but the subconscious mind always knows. It's always recording, and it's just really trying to keep you safe, even when it's actually blocking you from blessings.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Now that you said that, I'm like, ooh, that does make sense. It's never happened to me. I mean, I don't have a problem sleeping, but sometimes I oversleep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So now we're almost at the end. Man, that's been an hour. These shows go so quick.
Fun.
I used to do 4 hours. Can you imagine that?
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time. You need commercial breaks, 15 minutes in between commercial breaks and stuff like that. So, but so people want to go visit your website. They can find you at www.intuitiveillumination.com. Is that correct? Got that written right? Yeah. Well, and I also have. They can find you on Facebook at Intuitive Illumination. That's good. Gotta maintain good consistency. I had a problem when I got into real estate, because a lot of people were like, "Wow, you gotta keep the same name," and trying to keep the same name on every social network is nearly impossible, because everybody took it. Everybody had something that I wanted. I'm like, so.
Yeah.
But that is awesome. What do you got for a takeaway? What do you got?
So, I mean, honestly, whether you're looking to explore just to find out more about yourself, or just to look into modalities, try something new, try something on for size, see what fits, see what you like.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, give me a call. My phone number is on Facebook. It's also on my website. I do take text messages a little bit better than phone calls. I can answer any questions, but if you're looking to do hypnotherapy, past life regression, theta healing, or biotism, now I can't say Care therapy.
Yeah.
And feel free to reach out. Contact me and we'll get you scheduled.
Awesome. Definitely have you back on the show. I want to do something a little bit more often. And since you're in Florida and since you're close to the area, I have had a couple clients in the studio, and we'll actually film something here in the studio, like we did card readings and stuff like that. And I think we're going to be doing a little bit more of that in the coming months.
Absolutely.
So,
maybe do some peer therapy there.
Yeah, do some workshops and stuff like that, and either pre-recorded or live. So.
Yeah, like the workshops that I teach are really great for anybody who's a newbie or even actually seasoned to metaphysics. I've had intuitive readers that were well seasoned take my classes, and it's helped them. So anything as, it starts from everything as simple as protecting your energy to really like getting into that theta brainwave, which that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. It's all help to find ourselves. We're lost. We're all lost. There's some.
We're lost, right?
Yeah, it's just like we're in this theater, and we're just kind of going day by day, wondering what gives.
What am I playing?
Yeah. What's my part?
Yeah.
I wasn't given a script. So if you want to find that script, you got to reach out to Nikki Maly. She'll help you find that script of life.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna wrap up the show. Thank you again, Nikki, for joining us evening. Namaste, my friend. And until next time, go visit Nikki on her website, www.intuitiveillumination.com, or on Facebook at Intuitive Illumination. If you hadn't subscribed to the show on the YouTube channel, please subscribe. Like, share, tell your friends, peeps, fam, everybody out there, because the shows are only going to get better. Yeah. So anyway, y'all have a good night. Good night, Nikki. It's been a pleasure. Good night, everybody. And I'll see you next week. Yeah, that's the plan. Y'all have a good one.